essay has been one paper where you have seen variation from 75 to 162 last year, even in the people who got selected. So what are the do's and don'ts? First of all, you should not be extending your introduction to more than 1.5 pages. This is a very key thing that you're supposed to follow, because when you read a lot of essays, the way I do, the people who check your essays in the actual mains paper, they also read a lot of essays. There are 13 to 14,000 copies to be evaluated. So they have very less time with every copy. So if you like extend your introduction, many of you are writing anecdotes in the introduction, then you are writing probably the Malala story or probably the Mandela story. So nobody wants to like keep the suspense going till the second page. The reader or the reviewer of the essay wants you to talk about the crux of the essay topic as soon as you can. So probably in an ideal scenario, on the first page itself, write your anecdote if you're writing one and connect it to the topic of the essay there and then only. After that, you can probably write what is going to come in the essay. You can explain the metaphors, etc. And by the time it is 1.5 pages, you should be starting with the core demand of the essay paper. And the core demand does not include explaining the metaphors, right? So there can be metaphors in an essay topic. For example, last year, I think, there was an essay topic which was about you cannot step into the same river twice. So river is a metaphor, you are supposed to explain it. But if you are talking about a very generic essay, which is talking about education is the panacea for all evils, so their education you are not supposed to explain. You can supposed to explain directly come to the topic. If the keywords in the essay topic are self-explanatory, then you are supposed to not spend a lot of time. And even if they are not self-explanatory, even if they are metaphors, you are not supposed to dwell a lot on the keywords only. You are supposed to dwell on the meaning of the essay topic, right? This is the first do. You should not be going beyond 1.5 pages while you are doing your introduction, connecting it to the topic of the essay, etc. That is a must for all of you. The reason being, so in the essay mock that we did, and before that we had an essay program, I was evaluating a lot of essays back to back. When I read a lot of essays, I know what the story is. When you are reading a lot of essays, I know like you're going to write about this guy or that guy. It is very common. The introductions are very common. And by the time you evaluate a lot of essays, you already know what is going to come in the essay. So your introduction should be sharp, it should be quick, and should be directly hitting the demand of the essay topic. Secondly, you should be doing as much multidimensional analysis as possible. And how do you do that? Do that? I've seen a lot of copies where a person is writing about, suppose, the social dimension of something. So just in the essay mock, we had given a topic that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So in this essay, people explored the social dimension, that how many superstructures are at play while they oppress people, uh, the down.
Diamond 2.
So in those essays, if you in that particular theme, when you are analyzing the social theme, you should not be going beyond, suppose, one paragraph. If you want to explore the dimension of women, that women are oppressed in this way and their minds are controlled by the superstructure of patriarchy, you should not be going beyond one paragraph. That one paragraph is sufficient. You can give your thesis points that the oppressor controls the mind of the oppressed in a way that they make them believe that they are supposed to do free labor for them. So this can be, then you can say the case in point is how women in India, their work is not included in the GDP, or you can also talk about the slavery system, right? But you are supposed to give only one example, and also that example and your thesis should not be going beyond a paragraph, because if you go beyond a paragraph, then you will be compromising upon the space of writing other dimensions that you can, right? So if you include two paragraphs in one thesis, one social dimension on women, on the depressed classes, etc., then you're going beyond the space required for that particular theme. So rather, you should be utilizing other paragraphs to highlight something else. So what can be that something else? When you look at the essay paper, you have section A and section B. You get the essay paper probably 5 minutes before, in most cases, 5 minutes before the exam starts. You can start looking at the essay topics of section A and section B. You're supposed to decide in the first 5 minutes, this is my opinion, that you should be deciding like which topics are you going to write in the beginning itself. You look at the essay topics and you understand, okay, this topic the topic 2 in section A is something that I can do. Topic 3 is also feasible. So when you decide, first of all, it is very important that you understand the crux of the topic. Crux of the topic. If they are giving you a essay, suppose, I think, therefore I am, a great saying by a great quote by Rene Descartes. So if you cannot understand the crux of it, do not write on it. If you understand, so for example, this particular essay, that the uh, uh, true ideas can always test the plane of reality. If this is the essay, and you understand, okay, I'm supposed to discuss the interplay between how ideas should be substantiated by experiment on the plane of truth. If this is the understanding that you've got and you think that it is a proper understanding, then you should be writing on it. Similarly, in the last few years, if you see, like the river essay, if I just talk about again, you cannot step into the same river twice. If you do not understand the exact meaning of it, you think that I might not be correct, I might be taking it too narrow, then you should not be writing on it. If you understand the proper demand of the essay topic, then only proper crux of the essay topic, then only you choose it. Secondly, very important, what has been happening in the recent years, the topics have been become difficult to choose from, and there is one topic in every section which is comparatively easy and which is in control for a lot of people. So what happens when you choose that topic? You will be competing against, in terms of your introduction, in terms of body, in terms of your anecdote, conclusion, way forward, antithesis, everything, with a lot of others. So for instance, when I gave this topic in this essay mock, the oppressor topic, a lot of people chose it. And I think like about 50% of the people chose it. Out of 400 people who wrote it, this was chosen by a lot of people. And when I'm reading a lot of essays over and over again on this topic, then there will be some people who have really good writing skills. They will be writing it way better than others. So in this case, my opinion is, and my observation has been, you can choose to pick it or not, but my observation has been, if you have two essays in a particular section, which on which you have sufficient content, then you should be choosing the one which most others will not be choosing. Now you can ask me, like, how would I decide whether others will be choosing it or not? You can see the trends. People chose All Who Wonder Are Not Lost. Most of them began the essay by writing the Robert Frost story. So everybody was writing Robert Frost. It becomes stale after some time. It becomes mundane and it becomes very, very common after some time. And somebody who comes up with a good anecdote on Robert Frost, that anecdote will outshine all others. So it is important that do not just pick an essay topic which everybody else is choosing, unless you know something which is, and you have a good conviction that I will write better than probably 1,000 others, right? If you have that conviction on that topic, for example, the girls are held back by restrictions, boys by demands. Like many people, almost like most people must have written that essay last year. And in that particular essay, if you think that you have good understanding and your content is well thought out, and you thought about that particular topic, and your expression will be very good, and it will be standing out, then you write on that topic. Otherwise, you can pick something else. That I've seen over the years. If you're really good at it, then you pick it. And this is an advice. This is just an advice. This is just an opinion from my side. If you are confused, if you think that there are two topics, this is very common, but I only know about this topic, then you should be writing on it. If you have a confusion, if there is a dilemma between choosing two topics, then you should be choosing the topic which is the most probable of being least picked by everybody else. Now let's talk about what mistakes I've found in everybody's essays, the essays that I've seen. The first thing is, why do people score less than 100, less than 90, or less than 80 in many cases? And because of that, they are left out of the final list. It is primarily, I've seen, because of three reasons. The first reason is that your grammar is not apt. The sentences that you are making, either you are not like making them grammatically correct, or your sentences are not making any sense. There are many people like that. Probably 30% of the total lot are people who lie in that category. They are not able to make proper sentences. They write the subject of the sentence is plural, and then they write the verb in the past, something like that. They do something uh, grossly, like out of play and out of the need of the sentence. it makes the reader very frustrated with your essay, and it is you're bound to get really less marks. If you lie in that category, you know whether you lie in that category or not. I would advise that you should be writing shorter sentences and take extra care. Take extra care. It is not a GS subject where you can just write keywords and examples and you're getting marks. It is a language paper, so your language should be good. So for that, you're supposed to write smaller sentences. You can write bigger sentences if your command over the language is good, but if your command is not as good as others, then you should be writing shorter sentences. The second reason why people do not get marks in the essay paper is because they just write on the demand of the topic. So they just write, for example, oppressed and oppressor essays there. They will be writing throughout the essay about how this particular oppressor is oppressing. They write a lot of examples. There are no clear thesis points visible. And at the same time, uh, their examples are not substantiated by arguments. So that is also one mistake that people do a lot. So it should be a case that you should be writing proper grammar, and at the same time, when you are writing a particular paragraph, give a proper thesis point. So for example, if you are saying that history is replete with examples where the oppressor has oppressed the mind of people to control them, in order to control them, for instance, then you write something from the history, right? So there should be a thesis point, which is your hypothesis that this is what I want to convey, and this is the example substantiated in. And always follow this rule that you are not going to write two examples in a particular thesis point in a particular paragraph. One example is sufficient. Explain that example, how that particular example is connected to the thesis point that you mentioned. One important point that I've noticed is that when you evaluate a lot of essays, what happens is that if you do not underline properly, if you do not underline, your handwriting is not also as legible, then the interest of the examiner is not that much in your essay. So you should be underlining at least the keywords in the thesis, 4 to 5 keywords, and at least one example, couple of keywords or 3 keywords from that example in that particular paragraph. So when you are reading it very quickly, it becomes easy for you to identify like what topics have you covered, what thesis dimensions have you covered, etc. Now let's talk about what is a better, what can be a better essay in 2024 means. The competition is getting better and better. People who used to get in 2018, 17, 16, they used to get probably 140 plus. Now they are probably not touching even 110 and 120. This has been happening with a lot of people. So what has changed in UPSC exam? What, like, people have become better with examples since a lot of resources are available. People have become better with writing antithesis. Like nobody wrote antithesis probably in 2013-14. Like half of the people did not know about this fact that you are supposed to critique the topic of the essay as well. So now that is not the case. So first of all, there are a few tick marks that you're supposed to do. The introduction should be very catchy. You make an introduction, spend extra time while you're structuring it, make it as catchy as possible. Secondly, you are supposed to dwell on the demand of the essay, probably for 5 pages, probably for 5.5 pages, but not more than that. The exact demand of the essay, where you are explaining why, how, when, how, but, if, etc. of the essay, that should not go beyond your 5.5 pages. After that, you talk about an antithesis, and people make up antithesis sometimes when it is not there to write. So, for example, in the oppressor essay, somebody wrote that sometimes it is good to be oppressed. This is not an antithesis. That does not make sense. If the antithesis is not making sense, then you should be writing something which is going to add a parallel dimension to the discussion of the essay, right? So add a parallel dimension which is also true apart from the topic of the essay. That is very important. One more thing which is necessary is that you do a contemporary, a current affairs analysis, the present relevance of the essay topic, that you can ideally do in a good case. Like there are 1,000 ways of writing essays, but after the antithesis, it is good if you can analyze the essay and its present relevance. The present relevance can be technological, the present relevance can be ethical, it can be social, it can be for an individual, it can be for growth, it can be for a nation, it can be anything. You can quote examples of Sudan war, you can quote example from global boiling that is due in 2100, etc. You can connect it to the topic of the essay and write the relevance of the wisdom of the essay topic. That is very important, and a lot of people do not write it. Now let's see, like, how do you get better marks? How do you get more than 120, more than 130? Uh, Firstly, you are supposed to give a theoretical basis in every essay. So suppose if they are asking you this essay, oppressor controls the mind of the oppressed, you should be giving a theoretical basis that who says this? Has there been any thinker who has discussed it and given a theory on it, and which is well accepted? So you can talk about, say, Gramsci, who talks about hegemony. You can talk about Karl Marx, who says that the erstwhile history of humankind has been a history of class struggle. You can talk about, say, Hannah Arendt, how she analyzed the followers of Mussolini and Hitler, and saw that they were controlled because their minds were totally in control by the leader. You can give other theoretical basis if you understand it properly. If you want to give a solution, use well accepted thinkers. If you want to talk about this particular essay, use John Rawls, who talks about affirmative action. Talk about his theory and how it can be a very good solution for the present day problems. Affirmative action should be there. It should be molded according to the needs of the present time. So that should be there. Theoretical basis in every essay should be written well and clear. It should be clear to the examiner that you have the knowledge of the people who have theorized this particular topic, right? You can give examples of from political science, from history, from well-known thinkers, from the ethics that you read. You can give examples of Kant and Rawls and these people you read in your ethics paper. So you can take thinkers from there. You can take Gandhi, you can take Ambedkar, you can take Rabindranath Tagore, you can give the theories of Vivekanand, Indian thinkers, Western thinkers, any thinker, but whose theory and whose uh, philosophy goes well with the essay topic. It is very important that you include it in your essay. That makes your essay in depth, and that's when you get like more than 120, 125, and 130 in these years. Now, secondly, these days when you see the philosophical essays, as we call them, uh, in them there is a lot of psychology involved. So you should be like writing a psychological dimension. You should be right. That's why you see people with psychology optional get better marks in the essay paper, and people with philosophy as well, but psychology in particular, because they write a very good in-depth analysis of the psychology of what is happening. So you can include the psychology dimension. Even if you do not know a thinker, you can just like probably just to give you an example, you can talk about Joseph Murphy's book, The Power of Subconscious Mind, where he talks about how the subconscious plays a very important role in shaping who we are. You can talk about Freud, who says that this is just general ideas, who says that when the adults attitudes and behaviors are shaped by what he discovered and the major impacts in his or her childhood. So that you're supposed to include. Psychological dimension is very important. Technological dimension, you should be like, a lot of people are not including it. They leave it to just political, environmental, ecological, become very mundane, but you should be including a proper technological example. The 21st century is an age of technology. So in this age of technology, if you are not able to relate the topic of with the relevance of it in the area of technology, then probably you are not doing justice to the topic. So you should be including technology. You can include all the syllabus points that are there in GS3, nanotech, biotech, artificial intelligence, robotics, space sector, everything. You can do that. Your GS analysis can be done. Your GS3 knowledge can be utilized over there, right? So these three dimensions are very important. People generally do what? They do economic analysis, they do ecological analysis, they do political analysis, they do all the pestle, but sometimes they do not include the ethical dimension. There is always an ethical dimension involved in a particular philosophical essay. So you should be focusing on the ethical dimension of it as well. And you already know the thinkers, you have done them in GS4. So you should be including the ethical dimension as well. So just to lay down what pestle means these days is P for philosophical, P for psychological, P for political, E for environmental, E for ecological, S for social. And social should be in depth, because there are a lot of people who have sociology as an optional, or probably they are very much aware about social issues, etc. And you should be aware because you're writing the civil services exam. So your sociological analysis should be in depth. It can be related to women, old age, children, anything, but it should be in depth. If you are writing the political dimension, you should be writing on something like grassroots level governance, because others are not including it, and it is very important, because as an administrator also, the most important problems that you are supposed to solve are at the grassroots, right? So write examples of the grassroots. So probably the GS2 knowledge that you have, about self-help groups, etc., that can be utilized here. The 73rd and the 74th Amendment you can utilize, right? So political dimension should be connected to the people directly as much as possible. Uh, After that, S for social, and T for technological, L for legal. You should talk about the legal aspect of it, like how in the field of law, this particular wisdom, because law is based on wisdom. You see very often these Supreme Court justices talking about ethics and law and its interplay. So if you can remember something from your paper 2 about a legal aspect of it or a constitutional aspect of it, you should be talking about it. That makes your essay multidimensional. That is the talk about your pestle approach. But your pestle approach is not always sufficient. You should be doing an analysis on temporal basis, historical analysis of that particular wisdom that you are getting in the essay topic. So you should be doing a historical, a temporal analysis as well. In the temporal analysis, you should be relating it, so that those in the beginning I discussed that you are supposed to put a why in front of the essay topic. You're supposed to put a what, a how, a if, a when, a but in front of the essay topic, and that is going to allow you to see and allow you to dissect that topic. And you can dissect the topic in basically in the historical context. You can talk about ancient history if you can find some example, medieval history you can find some example, from modern history you can find some example, from the world's modern history if you can find some example. Very good, like very proper examples which can always be utilized is the Renaissance that happened in Europe. So that is a very good example to make. Industrial revolution is a very good example which shows your analysis. So those things I think you're supposed to touch. So whenever you are doing an analysis of pestle, it should be accompanied by a historical analysis. That is about the body of the topic. An antithesis should come after it. So you should start the essay by probably starting with an anecdote. You can start explaining the metaphor, etc. There are 1,000 ways of doing it. You can compare two scenarios, etc., that I've discussed in the essay compilation that I did. You can see like there are 22 types of introductions that you can do. You can pick any of them. If you are good with anecdotes, that you can start with an anecdote, right? Uh, After that, you write about the body, you break it down in the pestle format, you break it down in the temporal format, and you also break it down if the essay topic has some prepositions such as I, you, me, they, us, etc. Then the us and the I and the me can be related to an individual. That can be related to a corporate company, that can be related to a society, that can be related to a family, a nation and its international policy, etc. So sometimes the pestle approach does not work. So there you should be adopting this approach of individual to family to society to corporations to nation states, etc., right? And accompany with with a historical dimension. So this is what I have to say about like how you can score well in the essay paper. Underlining is very important. This is something I missed. I think I would have covered or not, but underlining is very important. If you are somebody who is looking for improving your marks, then you should underline, and probably you underline with a blue pen. Take a black pen with you. That can be used. So if, because the essay paper does not require you to spend a lot of time on it, you can complete it earlier than the requisite time. So if you are able to complete it 5 minutes before the 3 hours window, then you can probably, whatever blue underlines that you have done, you can overlap them with a black ball pen underline. You will be carrying a black ball pen already, because you will be needing to fill the bubbles there in the attendance sheet. So that you can do. I wanted to keep this session brief. So I largely discussed like what is supposed to be done in the actual essay paper. And the 2024, a few more things that are coming to my mind. One is that it becomes very boring and very naive when in the beginning you say that we are going to first of all discuss why this happens, then we are going to discuss how has it impacted the way we live, then we are going to explore an antithesis of it, then we are going to explore the present relevance of it, and in the end we will conclude by saying that this and that. This looks very naive. You are giving everything in the beginning. Probably you can write 2 sentences where you just say that I'm going to discuss the interplay or discuss the various aspects of it. That's all. That's sufficient. And then you can directly come to the demand of the essay, and you are already highlighting your thesis points. If you just tell in your story, in your essay, what is going to come in the conclusion, that what is the need of writing the essay, you already concluded it, right? So this is also very important that I missed. Okay. All right, so this is what I want to tell you. I'm just turning off the recording, and you can ask your questions after that.